Hi, everybody, and welcome to our podcast series on innovative healthcare solutions sponsored by the Conference of Consulting Actuaries. My name is Ed Pudlowski. I'm president of Morningstar Actuarial Consulting, and I'm also chair of the healthcare community of the CCA, and I'm going to be your host for today's discussion. Now, just as a reminder, if you haven't seen these podcasts in the past, there's our series of interviews with professionals focused on delivering innovation in healthcare. These sessions are offered to provide insights about what's transpiring in our ever-changing healthcare environment in which we live. And I'm sure you'll enjoy the session today and all the great discussions that we've had to date that are highlighting the interesting people, products, and services that are really designed to drive a better healthcare system. Now, today, I'm really excited and delighted to be joined by Amita Sharma. Amita is co-founder of NourishDoc. Let me spell that out for you just so that you get that. It's NourishDoc. And NourishDoc is a holistic platform focused on supporting women through perimenopause and beyond for physical wellness and emotional support. Amita, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm super excited that you're bringing this topic to the masses now in the corporate HR. Thank you so much.
Well, you have really educated me on the importance of this. I had some perspective on it before, but you really shared a lot of information. So, really in that regard, I mean, I want to get into what NourishDoc does and the value that it brings. But before we get there, I'd like to talk about kind of the effects that perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause have had on people going through, those stages in their lives. In a conversation that we had heading up to this interview, you mentioned some interesting facts that I believe will help our audience appreciate the need for a different approach to managing the effects of menopause. So, could you share those with us?
Sure, absolutely. So our workforce in the United States, believe it or not, 40% is women over 45. So just because of their age, we know that they are going through perimenopause, and there are 75 million of them. Now, what's happening is 77% of them are going to experience moderate to severe symptoms. Now, the symptoms, when we talk about perimenopause, first of all, it's a 7 to 10-year journey. It's not as easy as popping out a kid in 9 months, and you're done. I mean, it's really, if as a woman you think, okay, I've got my kids out, now I can breathe easy. No, 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 no. This is what is happening now when you are reaching 40. And here it is, all these hormonal imbalance that starts happening. As a result of that, there are over 37 symptoms. Now you can imagine any woman who's working in 8 hours or 10 hours a day, any place is going to have some kind of a symptom, whether it's hot flash, night sweat, or having problems sleeping, stress, anxiety. I think all of us are stressed, that we can all agree to. But these are and other issues, as libido is going down, which is a very sensitive topic, but relationships are affected. So there are over 37 symptoms, out of them major being hot flashes, night sweats, anxiety, stress, issues of having proper sleep at night. Now, we know that if we don't sleep well at night, the next day I'm going to be a completely nerve wreck, anyone for that matter.
Yeah, it happens to me. I'm a complete wreck when I don't get to sleep.
So as a result of this, they have to sometimes take time off. And corporates, there's all these studies that have been done. They're losing about $150 billion in productivity and sick time if you combine the effects of what we just talked about. But the main thing is 97% of the women interviewed, they don't feel that there is any training for their HR on this particular subject, because generally this perimenopause, people understand menopause. Okay, this is a cessation of periods for women, but before that, 7 to 10 years of when the hormonal imbalance are happening, we don't understand as a society, even in the world for that matter, that support is needed right when you're around 40, not at 51.
Yeah. You bring up a really interesting point here too, when you talked about the training of professionals around perimenopause. Can you speak to that a little bit? Because I think that leads in nicely to, probably my next question, which is going to be have you talk a little bit about what NourishDoc does, because it seems to me like you're filling the gap. But talk a little bit about, the training of the, physician workforce out there and their ability to deal with many of these issues that you just mentioned.
So most of the physicians, or even are generally gynecologists, are trained on the fertility part of the woman's life, right? The health journey, so to speak. If you look at the data, most of the physicians are not so well trained in menopause. They're not taught in the medical schools. That's number one. Now, if you look at the corporate world, the HR is the vehicle where anyone would go if there's any issues. They also are not trained, that they're very well trained on the reproductive part of a woman's life. There's paternity leave, there's maternity leave. But after that, they're not very well trained that a working woman could go through all these hot flashes while she's sitting in a board meeting. She suddenly starts sweating, or if she hasn't had a good night's sleep. So they're not very well trained on the symptoms that could impact their work life at work. So this is what I'm talking about, the lack of awareness, lack of education amongst the physicians, amongst the HR folks who are the responsible for taking care of the human part of it at any corporation.
And you had mentioned to me too an interesting statistic around the divorce rate in the UK for women. Could you mind kind of sharing that with us too? Because that was astounding to me.
Yes, so there was a study done in UK, 60% of the women who are going through perimenopause, the reason for getting the divorce is menopause, because as part of going through the menopause, I talked about other symptoms, hot flashes, but then there's a lack of libido, there's an emotional distress that happens, there's the whole area of the pelvic region that changes. So a lot of all those things can have an impact on a relationship, and sometimes women cannot talk to their partners openly, right? What's going on with their bodies, and most of the women don't talk about it because we've thought that this particular subject is a taboo subject for many years. We don't want to talk about this openly. We don't want to discuss. We want to show off our baby and our belly bump when we are pregnant, but we don't want to announce to the world, oh, hello, I'm going through perimenopause, right? So that's what's happening.
Yeah, exactly. So give us a kind of a sense of how NourishDoc is kind of filling that gap, right, in kind of that training and education in our healthcare provider community today.
Yes, so we looked at it, and we saw this as a very underserved area of what not being talked about, as we just said. So NourishDoc wants to go a step-by-step process. There's no one single pill that's going to fix this phase of life, right? Because now we know that the female hormones are eventually going to stop production, at the age of 50 or 51. But during that process, there are a lot of holistic therapies, sort of wellness that women can start doing or taking care of themselves during this whole process. And NourishDoc is making sure that they become a companion during this journey. So what we've done is we have gone out and partnered with over 3,000 plus global holistic experts, taken about 10 or 15 plus holistic therapies, ranging from diet, nutrition, we all know that, yoga, hypnotherapy, naturopathy, aromatherapy, CBT, counseling, breathing, so many things. We've combined it all together and made a simple kind of a self-serve app so that women can go through as a first step, that they can learn from how to start taking care of themselves, depending on whether they're in perimenopause, which is less than 51 for most of the women, or postmenopause, because the symptoms would differ if you are in the perimenopause or the postmenopause. So that's the step number one.
Okay.
And then there is possibility that some women might need a hormone replacement therapy because the symptoms are way too severe for them. So that would be the next step, that if they need to talk to a naturopathic doctor, or they need to get some testing done, or they need bioidentical hormones, that would be the next step after that. The first step is looking at the lifestyle medicine, so to speak, everything we talked about. And then there are a lot of other women who cannot take HRT. For example, cancer survivors. There are millions of them that we know, breast cancer survivors or other women who already have some kind of a chronic condition, then for them, holistic wellness is the only way that they can navigate this journey, right? That's the other. So there are a lot of nuances to this.
I see. So your platform is fairly much virtual, either through an app, but it sounds like you also have the ability to have a direct conversation.
Yes. So there are multiple steps. The way I was, the first step is self-serve, which is very affordable, for everyone. The next step is for corporations. If they want, what we do is we have a holistic coach, who you can chat with, and also an intervention of biweekly sessions with the experts, such as it could be a urogynecologist, it could be a mental health counselor, it could be a hypnotherapist, whatever the therapies I've talked about. So that could be, you have a support of a health coach, in addition to sessions that are being delivered by the experts on a biweekly basis or weekly basis, however the corporation wants, what people can follow along. So that way you understand the in-depth of why this is needed, why women have to really start taking care of themselves when they are as early as late 30s, because everything changes. The other interesting thing that I want to mention is menopause is different as per the ethnic background of each woman. That's the interesting part as well.
Yeah, talk about that a little bit, because I think in addition to kind of recognizing the diverse population and their needs, being a virtual platform, I think also probably helps you get to some of these more diverse communities that may not have access to physicians. So in addition to just the fact that you're filling in that gap that may exist within the provider community today, I think you also have the ability to kind of get to a more diverse population, both not only through your platform, but the fact that you recognize that there are some differences. So talk about that a little bit.
Sure. So ethnic background plays a huge role in this, right? So for example, Indian women, I'm originally from India, they normally get the menopause 6 years earlier than the rest of the Caucasian women.
Oh, wow.
So that's actually very disturbing, because 6 years before your hormones have stopped production, right? Now this data is Indian women in India, not here in the United States, but the chances of them getting more chronic conditions goes higher. Now, if you look at the African American women, they also get it earlier, like 3 years earlier than a normal age of 51 or 52. They get it at 47 or 48. Now that the same condition applies to them, and they're also a little bit more obese than the rest of the population. So the fact of this whole compounds into morbidity of multiple chronic conditions. The risk of diabetes, the risk of cardiovascular issues, dementia, osteoporosis, because now your production of hormones has started going down, joint health impacts immediately, your metabolic syndrome, because you're a little bit obese. Metabolic syndrome is 5 different conditions. So all this is not just one thing. It can go into the chronic condition part, which is the single most problem issue we have in the world, for that matter.
Right. And you had mentioned to me too that a lot of the training and coaching and the resources that you bring can really help direct your patients to the most appropriate care, which can be, perhaps more efficient, less costly. And probably I'm thinking here about hormone replacement therapy too. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes, so the first solution is very affordable. Even the second solution I just talked about, having a health coach and intervention with the expert, is going to be priced at a very affordable price. And we are testing it with a lot of NGOs right now, nonprofit organizations, reaching some of the rural women. Now, the HRT is a very complicated, in the sense, like, not every woman would need HRT. So to get the HRT, you need to have a proper consultation and testing with a qualified menopause physician, whether it's an integrative medicine doctor, naturopathic doctor, or MD. These could be So within HRT, there are different areas. There could be bioidentical hormones, other hormones. So that requires, that cost can go a bit higher because that depends on each and every individual woman. So there's not a fixed cost. I don't know the fixed cost. But the first two options that I mentioned, we are offering it at a fixed cost because that is being handled by the app, that is being handled by the weekly sessions. The third option, which is more personalized option of the HRT, we don't know the cost, but before that, we also offer personalized, for instance, the complete diet and the exercise and the herb plan, so that could be very affordable. So there could be a step process, a step approach, I should say, that before a woman wants to go through HRT at the first get-go.
I see. And how do you charge for your services?
Oh, the first one, the self-serve, is priced very, very low. It's going to be like $10 a month. That's it. We are testing right now in rural part of India because the goal is not only in rural part of India, but rural part of Africa or everywhere. We want every single woman in the world to have the same kind of a health equity, health benefits as a woman sitting, a CEO in New York, or a rural woman sitting who doesn't understand English. So the first option is very affordable. The second option, what I talked about, would be it's priced about $60 to $70 because we bring in, the experts who are going to be doing live talks or live discussions and answering the question and answers. Sometimes you don't want to follow along yourself with the self-care. You want some kind of a nudge from a coach or somebody kind of poking you, right? Do this, do that. So that's where that's priced at that. And then
but that would be priced per interaction with that health coach, right? Not like on a monthly basis.
No, that would be about $60 to $70 per person. They would have a 24-hour, they would have a chat with a health coach as far as a group therapy. This is for a corporation or a group that the intervention, the sessions that I talked about with the experts, for instance, it's a urogynecologist or a urinary expert or a pelvic health. So that is all included because what we want to do is we want to measure the data, right? That is very important. And that's why it has to be priced per person because they have the ability to log their symptoms and record the data as far as, how are they feeling, whether they're having mood swings, brain fog, hot flashes, all the things that we talked about earlier. So that is why it has to be personalized for each woman.
Right. Well, Amita, anything else that you wanted to convey that I didn't get a chance to ask?
No, I think the main thing is the perimenopause, menopause is just not only a perimenopause, menopause, these hot flashes, night sweat. This is not only about these symptoms. The reason it's very critical for women to really start taking care, and even the corporate HR, is directly related to the chronic conditions. And that is a big, we know that trillions of dollars are being spent right now all over the world taking care of the chronic conditions. So that's my message, that it's very critical for women and the HR to start considering offering some kind of a simple benefits for women who are going through over 40 or perimenopause and beyond.
Great. My last question, and it diverges quite a bit, but if you've seen any of these podcasts, I do this at the end. I do like to ask what you would have done if you hadn't gotten into the role that you're in now and co-founded NourishDoc and been so involved in healthcare. Where's your other passions lie?
I think I would have studied history. Leonardo da Vinci. I would have gone to Italy. and just be in Europe and studied. My original background is from architecture, so I studied architecture and somehow have navigated my journey into.
Well, you certainly seem to be the architect here of women's health, so we really appreciate your time spending with us today. I'd like to encourage our viewers who also participate in our healthcare community within the CCA, to continuing discussions about the insights that were shared here on this platform. And if you're listening to this and you're not a member and want to consider joining, not only experience the benefits of the community platform of the CCA, but also some of the informal discussions that we have, you can certainly go through by going out to our website at ccactuaries.com. Amita, thanks for being here today and sharing your insights and experiences about NourishDoc. and what you're doing to drive innovation in healthcare. I'm sure our audience benefited from the time you spent with us today, and I know I really enjoyed the time.
Thank you. Thank you so much for including me. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.